Well, we'll contemplate bad luck for somebody, or just hope it gets fixed and there's no bad luck whatsoever. Lando Norris has just gone through that Ascari chicane. I tell you who has got the luckiest job today, wandering around the track, Martin Brundle, and he's at Ascari now. Good afternoon, mate.
Hello everybody. Yes, I'm just watching these cars and drivers kind of reduce this to a minor annoyance, such as the speed they're carrying through here.
Okay.
Except every so often the car tries to bite them and they scamper through the gravel, and the dust is still hanging in the air from the Toro Rosso that came through here. And yeah, I mean, they literally just arrived. The right control, and I'm just waiting for the cheer. Here goes the crowd behind me as Lewis Hamilton then comes through in that glorious new livery that really jumps out of the racetrack out here when you're trackside. But every time the Ferraris come through for the first time, the crowd in this Ascari chicane area have been on their feet and cheering for their heroes, which is absolutely lovely. But yes, they come up over the blind brow there as we see the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll going very slowly, and they just sweep in. They ride the curb on the inside nicely, but they've got to be so precise while they're doing it. We got a lot of cars coming our way here as we see Fernando's. It looks like they're basically just preparing their lap. Fast approaching us now is George Russell. Look at the speed he takes in there and the direction change. He's up shifting in the ever dominant McLaren. Just dipped the tyre right very close to the gravel, and they're up shifting in the middle of the corner. They're powering on. It's a corner that used to terrify us, but they're carrying so much speed. Lewis Hamilton then for Ferrari misses the curb on the inside. Clearly doesn't want to ride that curb. Thinks he's better spending an extra metre or two just going around it rather than unsettling the car on the way in. But it's high speed. Remember, they got low downforce here with a low drag, and they just touch the curb on the way through, pick the throttle up, thread the eye of the needle, and then I'm sure they're hanging on through the end of the corner. It's just really wonderful to see the latest Formula One cars almost, as I say, reducing this to a straight line, really, until it goes horribly wrong. Back to you.
Thanks ever so much indeed, Martin. Great to have you at trackside with us. We're on board with Fernando Alonso. We've just been on board with Lando Norris. McLaren taking it to the extreme, their ability to ensure parity across both drivers. We know that Piastri's mirror is cracked. Lando has
Bang, nggak live di TikTok gua kena ini, kena warning. Makanya gua nge-live di YouTube.
This is got a good illustration of what the slipstream benefit is, Crofty, to see Fernando Alonso pop up.
This time kah? Waduh, jangan.
So Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton came across the line. Lewis had nobody in front of him. Leclerc had Lewis in front of him. A couple of
Jangan
seconds.
dulu. Pistanya besok minggu aja.
Is a 6K speed
Sekarang,
difference across the timing line. So that just gives you a little bit of an indication. As Pierre Gasly.
Wow. Ascarinya kayak berubah dah.
Way too hot, wasn't it?
Too hot, but we've seen that a few times. We've seen a few snaps going into that Ascari chicane. I think that's where you're going in, and it's, as exactly Martin said, so quick on the entry into there now. So a big snap, but well saved, and not too much gravel on the racing line.
Bimo. This is Hamilton getting bogged down behind Williams. Go through the first chicane. That looks like Alex Albon to his left, and Lewis like, oh mate, what are you doing?
And you know what? I feel like, oh, there's a car off.
There is a car in the gravel.
Antonelli.
It is Kimi Antonelli. Not another beach moment.
Yo ampun, Kimi. Cok, itu di mana, Cok? Oh, di race mode 2. Anjing.
Is out of FP2.
Wah, red flag anjing. I'm bitch.
Oh, Kimi Antonelli. That is desperate luck. For a man who finished fifth in FP1 earlier today, and who admits himself he's under pressure coming into
faktor baju ya guys ya, bukan deh. Kenapa sih? Ini nggak sih? Checkered flag nggak sih?
Off the track to give him energy when he's on the track, and he's come off there at the second of the Lesmo corners and managed to get the car spun around and beats. Let's have a little look on board.
So he turns in the rear of the car, started to snap around very early. Yeah, it was even before the apex, isn't it? The rear of the car came around, and a bit odd. We don't often see people lose the rear that early on. I don't know. I'd like to see it from the onboard view to see if he was slightly offline.
Saya emang ngelek gitu ya bang. Oh, emang ngelek ya?
Very early.
Di gua aman sih.
Sorry about that. Okay, mate.
Di gua aman sih bro.
A little bit like deja vu from last week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being beached.
Was he on the hard tyre last week when he went off as well? I think he might well have been. And I don't know if it's, you know, tyres a bit too cold and not gripping up for him or not.
Kalau ngelek coba cek koneksi lu deh. Patah-patah. Oh. Ntar, gua cek dulu. Aman. Ini gua settingan paling rendah ini kalau lu masih ngelek, berarti ini mungkin internet lu bro. Soalnya di gua aman. Atau ini ntar gua coba tanya yang di DC ya, coba ya.
It was relatively clean, and for a kid who's openly admitted he's down on confidence and is struggling, he needs clean sessions.
Exactly. He's not got the experience now to be able to have a session like this and come back in FP3 and it's like it's never happened. He kind of needs still, we saw that example, he needs the whole weekend to kind of still go according to plan to basically be able to build and take experience and make steps. Mistakes like this make that really, really difficult.
And he admitted after the accident in Zandvoort last week, he really struggled to recover and to come back and give it his best in the race. And well, we all know what happened in the race as well. A 15-second penalty in the end, which took him out of the points. Maybe, and Lewis Hamilton and he talked quite a lot, that advice from Lewis Hamilton of never give up. Is exactly what Lewis will be saying to Kimi later on tonight at the driver's briefing, because I'm sure it'll help him out and give him that little shoulder.
Absolutely, never give up. And I think I thought as Isaac Hadjan, I was going to say something similar from the beginning of the year, and you look at where he is now. But the situation for Kimi is tricky because he's also got to show glimpses of something. You know, it doesn't work just constantly being behind. He has to show at least glimpses of raw.
Guys, ada yang ngelek-ngelek kah guys?
BTW didn't end in a good position, but last year what was exciting in that FP1 session, he was setting the time speed to light, and there's something exciting about that. Now we're not getting this exciting sort of flashes of speed, or obviously the consistency of results. So it's kind of trying to manage, from his point of view, how he can actually put a weekend together.
Right, so there you go, red flag, and we are not long into this session. Kimi Antonelli is out, and he's under pressure. I think also under pressure there as to what's happened. Once again, to the driver, he's put all his faith in.
Cek lagi coba. Ini udah gua kecilin semua lagi nih, udah.
And you can just hear the banging of keyboards
coba cek lagi guys.
In the media center, and the stories that will be written about, let's say, is it too soon for Kimi Antonelli in Formula One, which I don't believe it is. And I think at the start of the season, things were looking really, really good for him. And up until Imola, really, which wasn't even his fault that he didn't finish in Imola, things were solid. And since then, and certainly since that podium, 1-point scoring finish, that's it. And I would say the wheels have come off a bit, but things haven't been going right.
I take your point, you know, it was solid, but I think Jamie's right, which is, apart from Miami, he's not been ahead of George at any point. And I think if you're talking about a rookie driver coming in to make an impact, especially if they've been brought into a top team, you need to see them beating their teammate once in a while at least, right? Or you know, I just think of even the we're looking here at Albon, right? You think of, forget the Verstappens and Hamiltons who were brilliant in their rookie year, Leclerc, you know, but Mercedes brought him in as the next Verstappen. As the next Leclerc.
Toto Wolff said, you know, he is the new Max Verstappen.
Yeah, and he's, you know, if you look at, as I said, the qualifying record, he's only beaten him in the 2 qualifyings that we had in Miami.
Itu kan belakang mana?
I would say a lot.
Lupa gue daerah mana tuh Alogio itu kan? Ya nggak sih?
these last few races in the European season had pointed to that. So something has gone wrong along the way to stop this rate of progression that we've seen with Kimi. And so do Mercedes need to look at themselves to find out how can they actually harness this talent that is clearly there, that they're not able to extract the maximum out of?
Did he really destroy Oliver Behrman last year in F2? I felt like they were kind of on par, weren't they?
Yeah. I think...
Rookie driver against a second-year driver, it's hard to...
Yeah, but that's my point. You know, at the start of the year, I think it was our pre-season show, I suggested, you know, Carlos Sainz and George Russell would have been the better option for Mercedes for 26-27. But I was equally excited by the fact that Mercedes were being bold and trying to be daring and trying to do something different. And you have to applaud people doing that sort of thing.
I think also that, and people say, well, why did he go to Williams for a year? I don't think James Vowles, as team principal at Williams, wanted Kimi Antonelli for a year. You know, I spoke to James about this. He said, well, why am I building up Kimi Antonelli for a year so that one of my competitors can go and get the best of it?
But that's my point was 2 years. You have him.
I still think 2 years. He's still building him up for Mercedes.
Disagree, because look at James Vowles' choice. Was it going to be Kimi Antonelli or Franco Colapinto? That would have been his choice, right? If Sainz went to Mercedes,
yes, correct.
And I think James Vowles would have chosen Kimi Antonelli over Franco Colapinto,
well, he would,
or Logan Sargent.
But what he wanted was the third way, which is Carlos Sainz, and that's what he got.
Yeah, I still think if Sainz had the option to go to Mercedes, and Mercedes wanted Sainz, then there would have been there. The point was Mercedes didn't want Sainz.
Yes, exactly, which might have been a mistake in hindsight. But this good chat. We should do this on a podcast next week, Karun. So we have the green light once again, and the cars are filing out bit by bit onto the racetrack. Peter Beyer, the CEO of Racing Bulls.
And talking to Jim Farley, the boss of Ford, who's obviously going to be supplying a part of the powertrain with Red Bull powertrains in the back of the Racing Bulls and the Red Bull for next year.
Jim Farley, who I think is allowed to go and do hot laps around Monza this week as well. I mean, honestly, I'd swap places with him just for a week, do his job. He can come and do mine. I'll do his job if I can get out on Monza and do a few hot laps.
Oh, but you know what? He takes his driving very seriously. You know, he goes to do driver coach days with Rob Wilson up in the UK. He goes up to, you know, racetracks like Hethel and Bruntingthorpe, you know, airfields to go and improve his driving skills. And he's racing at Goodwood in the Revival next weekend as well.
Is he racing against you?
I don't think so. I don't know. There's a whole lot of races. I don't know which ones he's in. But
I
he
raced him
there.
last year in the Mustang.
Yeah, he's a good driver.
And he held his own. He is.
He's a good driver.
It's all that coaching, you see. Oscar Piastri's been noted for failing to follow race directors' instructions. I wonder if he came out of the garage before the FIA said the session will resume. You're not allowed... When there's a red flag, you get an indication as to when the session's going to resume, and I think Oscar Piastri might have come out before then. He certainly didn't go past the green lights.
Yeah.
I saw him trundling down the pit lane on that one, but there was a bit of confusion because they actually took the red flag off the displays, and it went green, so that might have been part of the confusion then. Try and tidy that up a little bit later. Charles Leclerc is on a lap. We've had a red flag. I'm surprised that gravel at Lesmo 2 didn't get swept away, to be honest. There was time to do it, but maybe it's off the racing line. Charles Leclerc is up through the first two sectors. We can see Carlos Sainz, his teammate last year.
You know what, Crofty? When he came up the hill to the Ascari chicane and he braked, you could see the front of the floor just come off the ground. And that's a... I'd like to see a bit more of that.
Oh,
and maybe just so people understand. We've talked so much, haven't we, about the floor and the plank of the Ferrari being into the ground and the end of the straight. And you'll get a bit of an illustration there of just how it comes up when the downforce comes off and the speed comes down.
I did actually get a quick word with someone at Ferrari after the session. I went, good? I went, okay?
That's great in motorsport language, I think.
Yeah. I said, well, come on. You know the competitors, as Verstappen now goes fastest. You know what everyone else was doing. And they went, yeah, it was so-so. Check the floor, says Bortoleto. I think got over the curb in doing so. And that's good. That's cautious optimism, I think.
Absolutely. I think if they turn the engine modes up, everyone will see it. They know everyone will see it. They'll see it. So they'll manage expectations on that side of things. But still, it's nice to see them up at the front.
The theory for Ferrari, and Hamilton's on a flying lap, is he goes fourth fastest, and we watch Gabriel Bortoleto, and that's why he wants the floor checking.
And if you listen to that, you can hear the floor. Oof, that's the worst place because he's fully straddled where that sharp edge is on the end of that curb. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of floor damage there.
Oscar Piastri, meanwhile, approaching the Lesmo corner, the second one, and he's not gone as far, but still, what's that, half straddled? And still pretty straddled.
There's
a lot of
straddling going on.
I'm not saying it. I'm not getting involved in this chat.
Not after last week. There's the incident involving Oscar Piastri for failing to follow race directions instructions investigated after the session. Bortoleto has been noted for a yellow flag infringement. Alex Albon, now the third most experienced driver for Williams, which seems incredible in the long history of that team that he is the third most experienced driver.
It does, and it kind of comes a little bit back to what we're talking about with Kimi going to Williams. I think Williams really are trying to take themselves away from ever being seen as being a junior team to any other team. They want to be a team in their own right, ultimately winning world championships in the future. So for that to happen, they need to keep especially the talent that they have, and they've got two experienced great drivers, and Alex is doing an incredible job this year, getting a lot of points for that team.
I saw James Vowles yesterday. I said, how's life? He said, not bad, not bad. I think we're slowly getting there. I think we're actually getting there. We're good. You can take a day off now. We're not getting there that quickly.
I don't think he'll ever take a day off.
And that's what you've got to be. As a team principal these days, you've got to put the graft in to... I mean, turn things around is an understatement at Williams. He's ripped up the playbook from years gone by and very much doing things in his own way and reaping the rewards. Right, Fernando Alonso now, the most experienced driver on the grid this weekend. Going through the first chicane, take us through the rest of the lap.
Yeah, let's see as he accelerates up through the Curva Grande, former double winner here, isn't he? For McLaren and for Ferrari. 1 year in his first appearance for Ferrari, which firmly welded him into the hearts of the Tifosi at that stage. Through the second chicane, the Variante Roger chicane. Pretty nice run through there, but it does look like he's a bit down on this lap. Maybe the tyres have seen better days at this point. Just trying to see how many laps he's done on this set of tyres. Crofty, Fernando Alonso. Yeah, he's done a few laps. I think he's on his fourth push lap now. Underneath the banking, he'll be looking for the braking point. Now watch his curb usage here on the left. Aggressive turn in, as is typical of Fernando. He really does just dominate the car and bully it into position, but in a very controlled way. He might pick up a distant tow from his countryman Carlos Sainz into Parabolica. A little bit slower to pick up the throttle, so which suggests to me that either the tyres have gone past their best, or maybe still a little bit of fuel on board. But in contrast to how early Lewis was on throttle when he went on board earlier, that tells you what's going on here.
And Jim Farley still very much looking intently at what is going on. By the way, in Baku, Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso will between them reach 600 Grand Prix starts.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
It's quite an experienced lineup at Aston Martin. On board now with Alex Albon. Whoa! Hello.
Save.
Big off. Just check the floor. Yeah, a couple people do.
Why are so many drivers going so wide at that second Lesmo exit?
It's actually quite blind when you enter that corner and you pick up the power. In that instance, Alex had a huge amount of understeer mid to exit, and that's why also when he picked up the power on the gravel, unlike the others that kind of just skirt the gravel, he had the big snap of oversteer, which he held very nicely. But it is actually quite blind, so you are kind of guessing a little bit on power, hoping to get to power a little bit earlier than you can see the exit, which often causes that wide moment.
That's Lando Norris backing off, and as he does so, that allows Max Verstappen to pick up a little tow as he starts his latest lap. Carlos Sainz is another completing a lap here, and he goes quickest by just over 1/10 of a second from his former Toro Rosso teammate Max Verstappen, and we can head down to Ted.
Just talking about Lando Norris, want to update you just on a little swap that they did before this run, and then they went back on it. They put the new front wing, which is designed to work with the lower downforce rear wing that they've got here, the new one, McLaren, and they put the lower downforce, lower drag front wing on, but then had a change of mind, Crofty, and put the old one with the flap, with the longer section at the top, not the cutaway section. They put that back on. So yeah, an interesting little change of mind as they're still searching for the perfect setup. But it doesn't look so bad so far. And I'm just keeping an eye on whether anyone is trimming out rear wings as the race weekend goes on. Does the Ferrari look a bit slimmer on the rear wing to you, Karun, compared to first practice?
It's quite hard to tell, Ted, but judging by the straight line speed on the speed traps, they are all comparable. Verstappen 340 on their best laps. Yeah. Verstappen 340, Hamilton 340, Leclerc 340. It's Carlos Sainz actually 337 on that lap, so maybe carrying a bit more downforce for a change.
In miles an hour, 337?
Kilometers. Oh, in miles an hour, that is 210.
Oh.
211 maybe even, or 210.5, 210.5.
When did you turn into a maths genius?
Well, 200 is 320.
It's impressive, is what it is. Soft tyres are on for Franco Colapinto as he hurtles towards the parabolica. Waiting for him is Martin Brundle.
I am indeed got a wonderful spot here as he comes through the corner, doing the wall of death through the outside. This is a corner where you do the turning on the way in, a minimum speed about 125 miles an hour, and then let the car breathe towards the outside bit. You've got to keep turning without taking any energy out of the tyres and scrubbing any speed off into that super long pit straight. It's all gone very quiet out there momentarily, but you can see how when they make a mistake, they come and hit the wall down in here just in front of us. There's not an awful lot of runoff here, never has been into this corner, considering they're turning up at a long way north of 200 miles an hour. Quite a small gravel trap as well for them to go into. So an incident or a problem here, the car swaps ends on you later on, or you trip over somebody as you come into the corner trying to make an overtake, and you'll soon be in this barrier here. It's really, we're in amongst the trees. It's so old school, and these tyres here that they look like a bunch of scrap tyres, but actually they're put together in a very specific way. They're bolted together, they're linked together with metal rope as well. So and then the conveyor belt in front of that to arrest the cars. I can see as they come into my field of vision, sometimes they've got a bit of understeer, just as we saw there with Yuki Tsunoda in the Red Bull. I can just see the front axle where they've got a little bit of scrub, a bit of steering angle on. You can see the side wall of the tyre just trying to tuck under a little bit. Such is the incredible energy of turning into a corner a long way over 100 miles an hour as the McLaren then of Lando Norris comes through. That lovely seamless shift on the gearbox. So as soon as you get into that early apex, when you're under control, and well, we used to be happy to be pointing in the right direction in the right gear at that point back in the day. You're back on the throttle. You're absolutely hounding the car all the way through the outside. So you've done your work on the way in. You then almost sort of duck your head down, try to press the throttle past its stop. So you want to get to the timing beam down the pit straight as well. Or indeed, if you're tucking into the pit lane, you release off this corner so fast that the pit entry looks like a little tiny matchbox that you're aiming for before you have to slow down for the speed limit. Such is the release speed off this corner. Only 11 turns around here, but they all count. They all matter. None more so than the legendary Parabolica.
Thanks ever so much, Martin. Lando Norris goes fastest through the middle sector. Carlos Sainz on a decent lap with a 26.6 in the first sector, and he's a 10th and a bit up. So we can compare these two times. Bortoletto is going to be investigated after the session for that yellow flag infringement. Sainz, who has already got the fastest time, might be about to extend that unless Lando Norris can go a little bit faster, and does so with a 1:19.80, 7 tenths up on Sainz, who you can see in the distance, and he will pick up a toe, but not by enough. 4 tenths down by the end of the lap.
So Norris across the line at a 3.35. I wonder if they've started to put a bit of downforce on there. You're right, Sainz picked up a distant toe, 6k quicker than Lando and 6K quicker than his previous best. As Nico Hülkenberg pops up, second fastest time there with the Ferrari power unit, of course, in the back of that salvo.
Absolutely. Last week I was having a chat in the paddock about practice sessions and trying to find a form book, because Karina and I at times were getting very confused in Zandvoort, and the person I was talking to, who knows an awful lot, was saying, Gabriel Bortoletto, you see the flashing panel.
Oh, he's overtaken under yellow. There's a panel on the left.
But the car to his right was going very, very slowly. There's Antonelli in his stranded Mercedes on the left-hand side.
Yeah, but unlike Charles Leclerc in FP1, Bortoletto, I think, had time. I'd like to say it again, but I think he had time to slow down and stay behind that car. Unlike in Leclerc's case in FP1, where I think it was just too close to the red flag.
Is that a double wave Jello or a
single wave
a
yellow?
Single, and then I think a double at the second Lesmo, wasn't it?
Right.
The rule is the same though, no overtaking under yellows.
His defence will be, come on, the car to my right-hand side was going so slow, he may or may not have had a problem, as Albon goes second fastest and Bortoletto now goes fifth fastest. But if they have found him guilty of that infringement, that could be a grid penalty.
Exactly. There has to be a bit of common sense with it. In that instance, I'll have to say it again, as Karun said. Did he have time to slow? I think he probably did, but the car was so far to the right. How does he avoid that situation is what you need to look at.
Ocon and Behrman 6th and 8th for Haas. Leclerc is 3/10 down and 9th. Go back to that paddock chat. Trying to find a form book in a practice session, getting ever more difficult because the cars are so close together, or more close together. They play around with engine modes. Hamilton goes quickest through the first sector, and often it's not until qualifying, when they're all on the same mode and they've all got their setups the way they want it, that picture can then emerge. Over the line goes Charles Leclerc, only 5th fastest. So behind Sainz, behind Hülkenberg, behind Albon and behind Norris. And if he keeps on going like this, behind his teammate Lewis Hamilton as well.
We've seen it on many occasions this year where McLaren look always dominant and then get pipped to pole. So we see Lewis going to this Ascari chicane. Doesn't look like he's firing loads of speed into there, but he's up in the middle sector.
Is that a bit cautious through Ascari?
Well, I wonder about, you know, we're talking about the downforce levels. Are they running less? So they're quick in sectors 1 and 3, and then losing out a little bit in the middle sector where you need a little bit of downforce for the second chicane and the Lesmos.
And that could be set up for Lewis to get some overtaking done, which of course he's got to do because he's got that 5-place grid penalty. Goes second fastest behind Lando Norris, 2/10 down. We've got the stopwatch on George Russell and Oscar Piastri, who's making his way towards the Ascari chicane and is 3.5 down on this lap.
Yeah, no grid at all. Like 0.
Russell goes 6th fastest. Track temperatures come down a bit to 38 degrees. While Charles Leclerc struggling for grip. Maybe he hasn't got the downforce setup that he would like. Through the Parabolica, neat and tidy from Oscar Piastri. Has he got the pace though? Goes only 7th fastest, nearly half a second off the pace.
Yeah, and 3/10 of that was the middle sector to Lando. So yeah, I don't know if some of it is he's missed out some learning from FP1. Obviously, he didn't run the soft tyre there. It does seem like the switch to the soft tyre and the balance shift is affecting drivers. We saw Lando make a mistake on a couple of sets this weekend already. But yeah, it's a bit unusual, isn't it, to see Oscar. You know, we know he likes peaking at the right time and waits to Q3 to fully show his hand. But even so, we're used to seeing it being maybe, I don't know, 10.5 or 2/10, not 4.5.
He's leading a bit on the table as well. The exit Parabolica, there was quite a bit of margin. I think building up to it, knowing when he needs to attack is maybe something, but this track is so close. There's such small margins. Come qualifying, every little whisper and every little detail is going to make a difference. So I think taking the most of the learning now is going to be very important.
Max Verstappen had set off on a fast lap. He's backed off during the middle sector. So I think he's got another cool lap to go, and then we'll see a flying lap from him. Best lap so far on the medium tyre for Max, who hasn't gone fastest in Q3 here. So 2021 was the last time he had the fastest time in Q3. Carlos Sainz is putting in another decent lap. Suggests lowish deg, even on the C5 tyre.
He's been flying all weekend. It's interesting listening to him in the press conference actually talk about why he likes this place. And when all that downforce comes off these cars, it does make them a little bit more lively. They're not quite as stuck to the ground as we usually see. And he seems to like that. He seems to like the car moving around. I don't know whether that's come from his dad, and he just misses out on pipping Norris there going P2. But yeah, whether he likes that kind of car moving around because he's grown up a little bit with his dad in mind, with the off-road side of things, I'm not sure.
The 219th different driver to feature on a Formula One podium is Isaac Hadjar, ladies and gentlemen, and the third maiden podium finisher in this 2025 season. He goes 12th fastest in the Racing Bulls. I don't think they got their setup right in FP1 today. He didn't seem particularly happy with that. Meanwhile, here's Yuki Tsunoda, who will be compared against Isaac Hadjar, and Hadjar will be compared against him because we still don't quite know who's going to get the second seat at the Red Bull team for next season. And Tsunoda, I dare say, needs a little bit more of that. 6th fastest for him, about 3 and a bit tenths off the pace, or just under 4 tenths off the pace. And I'm looking to see where Tsunoda's teammate Max Verstappen is.
I was going to say, I think he abandoned the lap. I saw him do a good first sector and then not finish it, and I think we're about to see why.
It's over here. Car probably really jumpy. It's pretty nervous in every little bump.
Is it
a little bum?
Well, they resurfaced it. They spend millions resurfacing it recently.
Not in comparison to other tracks, but in a Formula One car now, they're so sensitive to these bumps. That's very obviously impeding.
Oh, come on. Unbelievable. Every time.
It was Albon.
Oh, apologies to Alpine. It looked like an Alpine in front. I got the first 2 letters right.
But I reckon that's about the 4th or 5th time we've seen a Williams in the way of somebody. They've got something's going on there with the communication between the pit wall and the car.
100%, and I know we spoke about it in FP1 where we were talking about, you know, drivers should just use their mirrors, but it isn't as simple as that. They are very reliant on the pit wall and the team, so maybe they're just not getting the information to them quick enough, or it's not being fed to the drivers in a way that they're able to process and then actually act on.
I will bet you the £0 in my pocket to go have this conversation with Jacques Villeneuve and tell him that.
Oh yeah, I'd film that.
Great content that will be.
Yeah. Is it right here? Radio issues? Who knows? On a flyer, Gabriel Bortoletto currently. On a flyer, Max Verstappen, but I think he's still a few tenths down, and Alex Albon asking for his team to check the floor as he goes over the curbs once again. We're not watching him. We've got Bortoletto and Verstappen on flyers currently. Verstappen is just ahead of the Brazilian who he goes sim racing against, and when you see them on track, they have some decent battles as well, you know, for real rather than just in the sim. Verstappen finishes his lap and goes 4th fastest. Bortoletto 11th fastest.
That's not bad for Yuki, is it? 2 tenths off Verstappen. That's where they want him to be. You know, they don't expect him to beat Max, but they want him to be within a quarter of a second of Max, and you know, I think that is a lot better. So let's have a look. I'm pretty sure, Crocky, I saw Piastri starting another lap with DRS open down the start-finish straight.
You did. Keep an eye on that whilst we go to the Sauber pit wall. Jonathan Wheatley, team principal, welcome for your first weekend as our friendly pit boss for the day. And 6th fastest for Nico Hulkenberg. Some pace for you out there, sir.
Yeah, not sure where you're looking.
Yeah, it looks like Nico's got his eye in. Gabriel's just trying a few different things, trying a few different braking areas and what have you. He just came in for a flap adjust, and I think he was a little bit too close to Max that lap.
Is that a normal thing, that the rookie tries to experiment a bit more and the guy with more experience just goes out there and bangs in a lap?
I don't know. I mean, if you look at Gabriel's career, he won his Formula 3 championship here. He won the race from P22 last year in Formula 2. I think he knows what he's doing around here, Crofty.
Yeah, there is that.
Jonathan, we saw there's an investigation for Gabby for failing to slow under yellow flags. Is that something you guys have looked at, or are you going to look at that after the session?
No, we had a quick look at it, and yeah, we'll go and see what the stewards make of it. I think it's explainable, but then I would.
Do you go up with them, or do you delegate that to someone else these days?
So I'm very glad that I don't have to make that long walk anymore.
Jonathan, just looking at the form guide, obviously at the moment you've got both cars in the top 11. How competitive do you think you are? Do you think you can carry this into tomorrow and fight for Q3?
I think we need to do our competitor analysis tonight. We need to have a look at where we are really relative to the competitors. But frankly, we've had a nice clean run through today so far. We've got through the programme, and at the moment, there's no major things standing out in terms of things to fix on the car.
Well, it's a good point you make about competitor analysis. Crofty and I were discussing this in Zandvoort. Is there a form guide? You know, do you know by now at this stage of the season certain teams push harder with the engines on a Friday or run lower fuel? Have you got a form guide in terms of, you know, your immediate competitors?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the espionage, if you like, or the amount of time we spend looking into what our competitors do. So you can try to benchmark yourself through the event as you come up. And you're right, we look at engine modes, we look at where cars are fast, where they're not, and it gets into a bit of a pattern. I think the other thing is you start to understand a little bit more the relative competitiveness of the cars around you, depending on the circuits you go to.
It's fascinating. Jonathan will come and see you later, and you can tell us that form book. Thanks ever so much for the time being, though.
Thank you.
He didn't say no. I like that. Ted, down to you.
Just quickly at Alpine, Pierre Gasly, you saw, did some damage to the front. And there isn't anything on a Formula One car, Crofty, that can't be fixed with a bit of silver speed tape. And can you see the bib, the T-tray at the front of the floor? The mechanics have just been on their backs, on the floor, just taping up the damage to that front section of Gasly's floor. But you can see he's out again on the medium tyres, going for another run.
And with 19 minutes to go in this session, it's Lando Norris, pole sitter last year, who is fastest from Charles Leclerc, separated by 83 milliseconds. Carlos Sainz in third.
Aduh.
So, breathe, ladies and gentlemen. The qualifying simulations have been done. Isaac has moved up to 11.
Tur walah Faisal.
On the push laps. Yeah, go for it.
You remember at Spa?
Wait, ada Ade. Hello,
lowish
Ade.
downforce track we had. Not quite as low as here, but still quite low downforce. So you see what happened to Lewis here. Let's just look at this first.
Welcome semuanya yang berjoin.
Locked up the inside front.
Aduh.
And went across the curve. So that lap.
On that subject, by the way, in terms of locking up, he did say that the rears locked up in Zandvoort, which explained his accident at turn 3.
Jadi kenapa pas gue di HP?
It was a problem with the rear of the car.
Gue bermasalah.
That's why he had that accident.
So back to the form.
Yes.
You know, we saw that two teams struggling for straight line speed there were Aston Martin and Alpine. That's where they are now.
They're down towards the bottom. And Fernando Alonso was saying that yesterday in the press conference that, look, Zandvoort, Budapest suits our car a lot more than Spa and this place, so don't expect miracles. Despite the fact that Aston Martin, in the last 3 Grand Prix, are the third highest scorers.
Apa maksudnya fitnya? Mau ngejinx lu? Antonelli tadi kena tuh ya kan?
Baku, that's going to be a slog. Yep. Singapore, that could be better. That could be there. No, so
Kimi kena tadi tuh.
They're going to look at the calendar now.
A few tricky races coming up. Mexico, Vegas. Brazil would be good, I think.
All right. There's lots of
Welcome yang berjoin, selamat datang semuanya.
You got one long straight in Brazil, but apart from that, you actually.
Kita sambil ngobrol-ngobrol ya guys ya.
So that, well, they'll be easy to overtake if you can stay within range, getting to that blast from Junshao.
There will be a sitting duck on there.
Ini sebenarnya ternyata
15th fastest Fernando Alonso.
Ini tidak fandom ke Mercy, kebetulan lagi pakai baju Mercy. Kebetulan. Kebetulan ya guys ya.
Yes. On the subject of Aston Martin.
Maaf ya Repiwan, enggak ada awak janji bang. Ada awak janji. Anjing. Awak aja nggak yakin mau janji anjing. Aduh.
Lance Stroll.
Kebetulan.
Has never actually been behind Fernando Alonso on points during this season. He's been 7th in 3 of the last 4 Grand Prix. Karun is looking at me like I'm going mad, but it is true. Yeah. He hasn't out-qualified Alonso since Silverstone last season. He's been out at Q1 10 times.
Gue lagi live di
and he's
YouTube
ahead
juga
of his
guys
teammate in
yang
the
mau
championship.
nimbrung di
You
YouTube.
explain that, please.
Ya.
I mean, we've got to go through the season, don't you?
Well, you can't,
individual races.
Lance Stroll is putting in some really good performances from very low down on the grid to come home and take points. And I think, yes, the safety car rather played into his hands at the right time in Zandvoort, but you've got to be in it to win it. And he's doing some really good salvage jobs through the year.
He's experienced now, and his first laps and starts have always been very good. I'd love to look at the stat this year as to the positions he's made up on lap 1, and I think he's now experienced. We don't look at him like a rookie anymore. He's able to get points. Yeah, exactly. And he does a good job when he needs to. He is also up against a two-time world champion.
I just think it's fascinating. He's been comprehensively out-qualified, but yet bounces back on a Sunday. "15 minutes to go here in Monza. We are watching Ollie Behrman on the track currently. One of 4 drivers who made up a huge amount of places in Zandvoort. For Ollie Behrman, it was to a 6th place from the pit lane, his best ever finish in Formula 1. The other drivers in Zandvoort, Stroll 7th from 19th, Ocon 10th from 18th, and Albon 5th from 15th. Great first lap, wasn't it, from Alex Albon? But for Ollie Behrman, once again, the safety car came at the right time, but his long stint on the hard tyre to go as long as he did, superb.
Yeah, listen, without that safety car, they would have ended up 14th and 15th, Ocon and Behrman. They rolled the dice, same as Stroll, right?
Yep.
Stroll went, I think, for a lap 11 pit stop, super early. They rolled the dice, safety car came at the right time. It worked out for them. I think fundamentally Formula 1 today, qualifying is still super important. The gaps are so tight. You in a normal race without a safety car, qualifying is still of absolute
tifosi gue, cuma kebetulan lagi pakai baju Mercedes.
Love tracks like Zandvoort where
bahas sponsor dulu gue di ini soalnya di endorse. Ini salah satu brand partnernya ini Mercy soalnya. Enggak guys, enggak. Gue lagi ini nih. Kalau kalian tahu nih, Police Eyewear tuh. Gue lagi bawa pesan sponsor gue. Jadi ya mau gak mau dah. Pakai baju Mercy dulu. Gue bang inget dong, Brad. Inget dong. Lagi lu nggak ganti nama sih gue inget ya. Lupa dengan ganti nama gue inget kok. Gue selalu mencoba mengingat viewer gue. Yes, betul. Guys, beli kacamata polis ya guys ya. Ntar bisa menangin kesempatan ke Abu Dhabi soalnya. Lagi tapi ke Mirror kah? Ke Mirror ya?
It's a cool place, you should see it.
Can I afford it?
Yeah, actually. You're an incredibly rich man. On a race weekend. You are an incredibly rich man, David Croft.
Tim double dana gimana?
How was your room last night?
How was my room last night? Well, right next door to you, and I didn't hear the snoring.
Wah, ada Gladys, halo Gladys.
The soundproofing is good.
Our hotel receptionist.
Pesan sponsor dulu kita.
As we checked in last night,
ada Lemon, halo Lemon.
Refurbished room.
Mon, habis ini diskon Mon, gue ceritain Mon. Coba. Mana yang kantor itu? Ntar, gue ceritain.
And then they said you're right next to him.
Diskon habis ini ya. Gue mau yapping gue.
Yes.
Coba tuh, gak betah gue ini.
But the soundproofing is good, so that's the main thing. I can't hear his heavy metal
Ferrari bang tuh Ben. Sedang membawa pesan sponsor.
Traveling with his own pillow, and I think mattress.
Besok pakai Ferrari besok deh.
So he gets a really good night's sleep.
Itu benar Ban. Anjing, Mon. Mon jangan di sini Mon. Bahaya. Masalah reputasi kantor nih anjing.
Of qualifying tomorrow.
In
the past here has managed a front row back in 2022, third on the grid last year. The hard tyre run at the moment, while we watch him.
Ya sih juara dunia. Gue setuju. Semoga juara dunia ya. Semoga.
See what that does in the race run. Just seen Lewis Hamilton leave the pit lane on the hard tyre as well. So we'll see how that does in the race run. Now we've got this.
Jangan di sini, Cok. Masuk lap siapa Bang? So far sih Norris ya. So far Norris.
We've had a news line come out since the team boss's press conference.
Udah misalnya together or nothing. Sorry bro, kemarin tidak.
It's really under some intense pressure.
Kemarin tidak,
not only to stay a Red Bull racing
ada
driver. I think
NG.
we all knew that. That's self-evident and obvious. But actually to stay a Red Bull driver at all. Whether he goes back to racing bulls.
Di repost dulu guys. Kita sambil ngobrol aja. Halo. Langsung ada Wilmus sih, anjir.
Confirm that if Yuki was subbed and Hadjar came in as Max Verstappen's teammate either towards the end of this year or for 2026.
FP2 bang, belum masih praktis 2 lihat notif dia ya, gue lihat kan enggak, itu lu harus tahu masalah sebenarnya kenapa sih.
Well, should we have a listen to it and you can make your own mind up?
Yeah, please do.
Okay.
Gue kira Kak Lucy dong. Halo, Faro Verstappen.
Will Isaac Hadjar be a Red Bull Racing driver in 2026?
You know, we made no secret. We have time. We feel we have time to take the decisions. We don't think anything is pressing us. We have seen, obviously, we are looking with a great smile Isaac's progress. I think it's been outstanding. But we are equally seeing, you know, Yuki being able to do.
YouTube gue sepi ya guys, jadi kita ngobrol di sini aja.
We have all the cars on our side.
Power keeps dropping out between turn 6 and 7.
Okay, and would Yuki Tsunoda stay in the Red Bull Racing?
Tapi nggak kayak Watchalong biasa. TikTok gue yang di PC bermasalah, nggak tahu deh bang.
We don't really have to take the decisions, don't really.
Gue lagi coba benerin sih, lagi minta stream gue ke agensi gue.
To be able to look at how our drivers are going to evolve in the next few races. You know, you may not want to wait the last race, fair enough. But we have the luxury to see how they are going to evolve. You know, it's as we have said, you know.
Isaac menang di WEC, Porsche menang
doing a very big step forward. We see a step forward also for Yuki.
Nobar.
Sorry, maybe I wasn't clear. Will Yuki stay in the Red Bull pool? Racing Bulls.
Buduk, udah amat.
Okay, so you can't say that he will stay in
There is no, you know,
between the two teams.
The evaluation of, you know, if you talk about the two teams at first.
Bang, weh ada faktur.
I can only talk about Oracle Red Bull Racing.
Halo bro.
But I'm quite confident that for both teams,
welcome semuanya yang berjoin, kita lagi watchalong nih. Wah, ada nobar di Discord juga yang mau join nobarnya, masih ada slot kalau nggak salah harusnya mah. Let's see, sebentar, kayaknya masih ada sekitar 20-an slot bener. Langsung ke view gue aja ya.
Laura Mekis was not in a position to give you a yes or no
nonton
answer.
Iya lagi nonton gue.
Negara
chaos, Ferrari chaos juga, anjing kampret cok. Ada Maggie kah? Halo Maggie. Lucky ya bang,
You know, dealt the hand that no one wants, which is being Max Verstappen's
konteksnya
teammate.
apa ini?
Not easy to drive.
Konteksnya apa ini?
You know, how many times we said that it's the car and it's not the driver? And Lawson is doing well now, going back down to Racing Bulls. Hadjar clearly is a man on the rise, and F1's a fashion business. I think we're all thinking that he's probably going to be in the Red Bull Racing drivers.
Lucky ya pasti.
Next year. That doesn't mean you have to kick Yuki
out. Konteksnya apa ini? Ya. Halo Kendrick, halo.
If you've got Arvin Lindblad, who is now
apa kabar, bro? What the hell? Leclerc karito.
Just to finish that sentence, Arvid Lindblad as a rookie, one for the future. That will be harsh on Yuki, I know, but that might be what the Racing Bulls team.
Kenapa jadi Mercy boys?
It's a really good debating point there, and you would feel very sorry for Yuki if this was his last season with the team. Jamie,
apa namanya?
It's
membawa endorsan sesuatu. Makanya pakai Mercy. Putri kecil aja ya.
Usually, not a corner that you have lockups like that.
Yang kabur ke sana itu ya. Enggak deh, enggak kabur deh. Sponsorin polisi, enggak, beda. Beda isi lop ya. Beda.
No, not
isi lopnya beda, guys.
And he actually took, I think, the safest route through there to keep the car as much as he could in a straight line. Lewis Hamilton was also saying he's experiencing power dropouts between the two Lesmo corners.
Aduh. Kayaknya rumor itu sudah menyebar kemana-mana ya. Bukan rumor nih, gosip nih, lebih tepatnya sih gosip ya.
Udah
gede banget tuh mata. Mata gue masih gini baik tuh mbak. Mata gue segini baik. Emang gue pakai filter
off the racing line. So that won't help Max Verstappen's tyres much either.
The balance required here.
Cara matiin filter gimana, Cok?
Because you always are chasing rotation. You've either got understeer in the car, or you're always chasing rotation. But
who's leading right now? Norris.
What we saw with Kimi earlier in the session, and Lewis there isn't much.
Pakai kacamata ya. Coba gue copot ya.
Flow vids on the rear wing of that Williams. They're still running a lot of flow vids on that.
Just a theory here. Low downforce.
Bener gini deh mata gue dah.
If you can get away with running as little downforce as possible, you're not going to be draggy. You're going to be competitive at Monza.
Tadi Maggie
kata Sebastian Vettel do
harapan di Monza tuh setinggi langit tapi nah jadi ya jangan berharap terlalu tinggi. Nanti takut jatuh terlalu jauh nanti.
Our team's just
ayo Ferrari mas laki di sana ya. Laki lagi cocok. Jauh. Sekartun ini ya karena gue nggak pernah gede ini juga mungkin yang kalau ngelas guys, sumpah.
The years you're talking about, the cars, let's remember, they were much smaller, narrower.
Halo. Impreza kah itu?
And therefore, on a track like this, they were much less draggy inherently.
Right.
Now, the amount of drag created by the
kartun
sheer
ini
size of the car, I think
gue seril ini dibilang kartun anjing. Cok, kartun apa, Cok?
And I think that's why the Vettel
Lot simulasi kok jarang les, nggak tahu lagi, mungkin ada kesibukan mungkin.
Quite hold in this current era. It might be different next
I am stupid.
Oh ya kah?
I am stupid. I switch off everything.
And that sort of stuff. It might be.
Kok ada yang I am stupid?
But yeah, I think that's why you've seen this.
Gua nggak ada nyalain Infinity anjing. Thank you BTW Rosnya Nana.
That said, I think it'll be interesting to see how the tyres hold up because last year, obviously, seeing McLaren rain their tyres, work their tyres, you add a bit of downforce and you can actually eliminate a lot of those issues. So, yeah, if tyre degradation is going to be an issue, then you're going to want to race a car that has a little bit more downforce.
I'm just wondering, overnight tonight, they'll do a lot of work in the sims. Paul Aaron, for instance, after taking part in the debrief after FP1, is flying back to Enstone to do the sim work tonight before flying back to Monza tomorrow to come and observe.
Itu kan dia ngeplay udah lama sih sebenarnya. Cuma yang jadi poin gue, jangan gosip di sini anjing, jangan. Gue nggak ada masalah sama dia kok. Ferrari posisi berapa? 2 sama 5. Apa kamu berharap lebih enggak sih? Gue nggak berharap apapun sama Ferrari. Udah dia menang di depan syukur nggak ya udah gue sih udah cukup sih. Dua siapa? Dua Leclerc. Dua Leclerc, Hamilton 5. Karoni effect anjing.
They went for the two-stop with Oscar. They asked Oscar in fairness, and he made the call saying, "I think we should pair." Ferrari rolled the dice with the one-stop and won. I think this year the fact the cars are going to have better downforce levels will push everyone to the one-stop.
JB Chadwick, thank you very much. You need to go to the paddock. It has been a pleasure to see you once again up in the commentary box. Carlos Sainz, another that's been off and needs the floor checking. They've spent a long time underneath the two Williams cars during the course of this session. I was going to talk about this earlier. We were riding on board with Oscar Piastri, and then something else happened. Last year's race, in terms of the McLaren potential 1-2, was decided when Oscar Piastri went steaming down the inside
itu yang mahal itu mas.
And surprisingly, going into that chicane. Now, that may well happen again here. It probably cost McLaren because it allowed Charles to be in position and a place further ahead than he might not have been at that stage had the McLarens kept station. They can't take a 1-2 for granted, I think, this weekend. They can't take for granted also that Lando Norris won't try that on his teammate because they're free to race and he's got
anjing gue kayaknya tadi tuh. Gue kan dari tadi pakai Mercedes ya, pakai baju Mercy anjing. Kayaknya kena anjing dah.
I imagine it'll be quite. If they do end up next to each other on the grid,
1 hari doang lah.
Strong
mau Zaud, waduh.
McLaren rules.
Ganti lagi cok Deka cok. Halo Deka.
All that sort of stuff. On lap 1 because they don't want to repeat that. They were quite clear that.
Lu nggak sian mak nggak Ferrari kok.
I am stupid.
Thank you Deka.
Switch off everything.
Kok nyala cok Infinity-nya di sini anjing. Di YouTube gua bos.
So Piastri through that Ascari chicane, following behind Liam Lawson in the racing balls.
Ya udah nggak nge-live gua di YouTube doang lagi. Tebak kenapa ya karena Jumat.
Mid to high 123s at the moment. His teammate Lando Norris has just put in a mid 123. Charles Leclerc 125.8. Leclerc on the soft tyre.
Udah berdamai ya.
On the medium tyre.
Gue masih berharap lagi kok.
Soft tyre.
Udahlah yang kemarin udahlah.
Capek lu. Current stint.
Nangis tuh gue tuh. Halo, di Real. Di Real siapa? Real Garage kah? Halo. Semoga mau jamin lah McLaren ntar di turn 1 siapa tahu. Iya. Yes. Dan Ford minggu podium Piastri.
Race pace and
who bakal ketemu lagi
40 seconds to go in this session before.
Nah, sekarang beli baju Mercedes di mana ya? Di toko Adidas. Adidas Store. Info posisi di kos gue.
After beaching his Mercedes after 4 laps of this.
Tapi kok TP2 Bang ikut, Piastri itu di P4 tuh Piastri. Dan Ferrari fokus peringkat 2 aja supaya musim depan sama budget capnya lebih longgar sih. Mungkin secara budget, secara pengembangan lebih bagus juga. Russell P berapa? Russell 10. Alih nanti posisi. Info P1 Norris. Max gimana podiumnya? Podium kayaknya P berapa? Wah, Max Verstappen nggak tahu deh. Sekarang aja P6 deh. Rumor ke Ferrari, ya gini loh. Semua orang itu sebenarnya pengen ke Ferrari sebenarnya. Cuma ada yang bener-bener ngincer pengen di Ferrari doang, ada yang bener-bener ngincer menang gitu loh. Sainz P3 Sainz. Lu kan pemain milih Ferrari bagus. Ya, di Sanderang kemarin udah dipecat kali ya. Oh, Om Rial Garat, halo Om. Halo. Bagus guys, gue live di YouTube juga ini. Ya turun Hamilton, sabar, belum. Sampai 5 kok Hamilton kok. Jujur lagi sampai 2. Enggak, somehow enggak. Walah, cok ngelok cok Leclerc. Kemarin Mercy, sekarang Ferrari, depan McLaren dong please. Besok ngabur. Tahun belakang pembalap F1 apa yang datangnya selama hari itu? Imsa hajar.
On the timing screens anymore, even though it hadn't said when the race
turun di Maghrib. Oh iya ding. Lupa.
The mitigating
circumstances
yeah. will be the car to the right was going so slow. What could he have done?
Yeah,
he was on the racing line. He don't want to slam the brakes on.
Yeah.
Isya hajar. Oh Isya, bukan Imsa ya. Isya hajar.
I think that
mungkin langsung dia terima, mungkin ya.
Not as clear cut. I think the car, you're right. It was going slowly off the line, right? I think they'll judge it and say,
makanan apa lagi tuh Bang? Gue mentok ketoprak gue, sumpah.
In a safe manner, with no,
wih, ada bakteri baik. Halo baik.
They look at it and go,
iya cok, lupa. Gue nggak tahu sih, lebih tepatnya nggak tahu sih. Gue tahu istilahnya doang, imsak, isya, maghrib, gitu tahu gue cok.
So we need to look into that. We don't. The stewards are looking into it.
Charles Leclerc just come on the team radio and said the car is very difficult to drive, a lot of mistakes.
It did look a handful of times. Oh yeah,
tricky with a high fuel in it. I mean, clearly low fuel, the car's quick. He's second fastest. Hamilton.
Mana jahat.
Between them, so I think the car is quick on low fuel. In high fuel, we've
seen
him
low off the Ascari. Masih praktis.
Trickier to drive.
One last year from 4th on the grid here, Charles Leclerc. This is the only circuit where he has multiple wins in his career. One of 6 drivers.
Ntar aku panggil bala bantuan, panggil.
For Ferrari, along with Ascari, Phil Hill.
Misalkan tifosi happy bikin dari enggak berharap gua. Enggak berharap. Wah, berharap Hamilton 3 Kemarin lah tanpa overlay biasa. Iya, Hendra lagi error. Lagi Gak apa-apa, sama tahu tim asal Inggris sendiri bisa nyaingin figur gitu. Ya, semoga ya. Masalahnya udah nggak kekejar tuh tim jeruk tuh. Susah ngejarnya bro, langganan pada pakai soft. Dia pakai medium aja nggak kekejar. Ya kan? Karena ada bagai suara sama Red Bull.
Somewhere at the front. There we go. How about pole?
Yang di atas siapa ya? Leclerc kah? Bentar guys. Oh enggak deh, Norris. Wah, sambal omaga, cok. Mana sambalnya? Aku mau. Salah tifosi ya. Emang dia tifosi. Dianggap emang. Aduh gantengnya, aduh pedasnya. Aku nak bang. Max P berapa bang? Berapa Max Verstappen, let's see. Oh ini nih, bentar. Max Verstappen ini, bentar. 1 Norris, 2 Leclerc, 3 Sainz. Besok untuk bang. Wah siap. 4 Piastri, 5 Hamilton, 6 Verstappen. 7 Albon, 8 Misko, 9 Tsunoda, 10 Russell. Enggak pesen ya, aku nggak pesen. Belum ready katanya. Sambil kerja di soundboard anjing. Oh my god. 11 ada Isaac, 12 ada Gaby, 13 Stroll, 14 Berman, 15 Alonso, 16 Ocon, 17 Lawson, 18 Gasly, 19 Kimi, 20 Franco Colapinto. Ya gak mau 2-3 lagi.
Only 1.6 seconds separating 20 drivers.
Videoan gua gak balik-balik, kayaknya udah gak bakal di replace lagi deh kayaknya. Harus pindah tuh guys, yang mau beli sambel ini gua rekomen banget, sumpah sambelnya enak banget tuh. Sambel Omaga tuh, kalian follow, kalian beli tuh sambelnya, sumpah enak banget, gak bohong gua. Asli gak bohong, gua ketagihan cok, asli. Ini apapun. Lu pada yang demen pedes nih, merah kayak Michael Schumacher mata nih. Promosinya balak cok, asli. Kalau di Ferrari biru berarti Alpine sampah ya? Iya sih. Terjelek-jelek Ferrari lebih sampah Alpine sih, coba. Guys tuh, sambal Omaga follow guys. Kata gue sih follow, beli kata gue mah. Murah. 20 ribuan sambelnya, tapi udah dapat segede gaban, enak banget sumpah. Enak guys, nggak bohong. Yang lu punya baju tim apa aja? Gue punya Mercedes sama Ferrari. Aduh gantengnya, sampai sambel. Dan si Don bakal balik lagi di. Oh enggak. Kayaknya batal deh. Oke, yang di Discord gue end dulu ya. Oke, thank you semuanya yang di Discord. Kita move ke TikTok ya guys ya. Dadah. Oke, YouTube end.